theoretically, I'll talk about this very quickly, but I'm titling this little talk, The One Thing That I Hear Over and Over Again That Really Breaks My Heart. And I could leave you to fill in all those blanks and wonder what in the world might that be. Um, but I'm going to tell you what it is. And it is when I hear people say, oh, I'm not creative, or oh, I can't do anything like that. When I am at craft fairs or I take my paintings um, to craft fairs or things like that, um, for people to, to buy at different things, venues and things, I always have people come up and say, oh, I love what you do, but I could never do that. Or they'll say, oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Or they'll say something like, you know what? I used to do stuff like this all the time and I don't anymore. And then I ask more about the story. I guess it might be the life coach in me, the counselor in me that wants to hear more about that story. But I do want to hear about that story because I believe that behind that message, there's a creative wound. And I believe that almost all of us, this is totally unscientific, totally unresearched, other than just life experience, but I really believe that almost all of us have this creative wound. So let me tell you a funny story. So I don't relate well to the creative thing. Like I can't do that because I love creative anything. But I used to always joke that not joke, like I can't do math. I don't do numbers. I would say that all the time. Just like I hear people saying, I can't be creative. I can't do that. I can't paint. I can't, whatever. And people would say to me, oh, you can totally do math if you tried. And I'd be like, no, you don't understand. I can't do math. Well, these last few months, I've had the experience of helping helping someone with algebra, which I barely got through in high school myself. And it taught me a valuable lesson that our brains are probably a little bit more flexible than we think they are. And because I somehow got through this process. So if I can get through algebra, my theory is those of you who say you aren't creative probably do have a creative bone in your body, probably do have something that that can be tapped into. And why am I even talking about this? Why does it matter? Well, I think it matters because I really believe in my heart of hearts that creativity matters. I think it matters for a whole lot of reasons, and I'll talk about these in some more lives coming up and just address them more in videos over time as I think about them. But one of the things that I think is really critical about creativity has to do with our culture. Our culture really praises left-brained activities, right? So we go to work. Most work that most people do is a very left-brained, analytical, fact-oriented, get the job done, linear sequence kind of process. And so that really exercises the left side of our brain. But then the creative side of our brain gets put on hold, gets put aside, gets unused, or it gets used in ways that become predictable to us. And we know through neuroscience that our brain creates neural pathways. It's almost like a car on a road that creates ruts, right? And those ruts can be good if we're creating helpful neural pathways. So if you're in a very analytical job and you've got it down and you've got it great, you've got these great neural pathways that understand what you're doing. But then there's these underdeveloped neural pathways in your creative side of your brain that have been kind of left neglected. So and we know there's a cool word. It's called neuroplasticity. Years ago, they didn't think our brains could change once we were adults. In fact, they just thought we learned what we're going to learn as kids, and then our brain kind of stops, and then it gets worse, and then we die. Pretty hopeless, right? But neuroplasticity is researched and it is proven to be a true thing. And that means that we can create new ruts in our brain. Basically, we can take our little car and drive down different roads over and over again to learn a new skill. And I think that creativity is one of those things that can help us create these healthy neural pathways in our brain. And I don't think creativity has to look the same for everyone. So I really love visual arts. You guys know that. I paint, I doodle, I draw, I pretty much anything I can do with my hands. I love doing it. I haven't had access to it in a while, but I love clay, pottery. I love anything kind of hands-on. The more messy and textured, the better. And so I love all that kind of visual arts and hands-on kind of stuff. But it breaks my heart when I hear people say, I can't do that, or I don't have a creative bone in my body. And if you're one of those people that has ever said that, I want to challenge you to rephrase that, and to try something creative. Now, this isn't just like I think you should do it because it's cool and I do it too. This is like, I'm serious. This is like really good for your brain and your body kind of thing. So um, I want to challenge you, instead of saying and, kind of claiming in your brain and teaching your brain, I'm not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. I want you to start saying something to yourself like, I want to try something creative. I want to try something new. I want to try something that I haven't tried before, because this is going to keep your brain alive and active. And there's something about the creative process too. Let's get kind of faith oriented here for a minute. There's something about engaging in the creative process that puts us in touch with our Creator. Because if we were created in the image of God, and He is obviously extraordinarily creative, right? Just think like, my son's really into figuring out weird animals and strange things, strange animal facts that you've never heard of before. So like pistol shrimp. And if God can come up with pistol shrimp and anglerfish, like if you don't know what those are, go look them up. They're very weird. And there's weirder ones out there that I just can't remember right now. But if God can come up with those things and have a purpose for them on this earth, and we are created in His image, then engaging in creativity not only is going to help our brain, it's going to help our soul. So that's part of why I'm so passionate about creativity. And I found that that's true in my life too. I practice what I preach. Behind me is my art table, and I got all my paints out. I do something creative every day, just like some people do different disciplines every day. Maybe some of you read a chapter in a book every day. Maybe some of you run a certain amount of miles every day. For me, the discipline that is in my life every day is creativity, and that's a life-sustaining activity. Now, you don't have to do things the way I do them. You don't have to do things the way anybody does them. In fact, the creative process, I'd say, encourages you to do things the way you want to do them. But I just want to encourage you to rethink. If you're one of those people that's the kind of person that said this before, that would break my heart if you came up to me and said, but I don't have a creative bone in my body. It truly breaks my heart to hear that. I want you to rethink that. And I want you to challenge yourself to think about what it would mean to try something creative, and even maybe spend some time thinking about why you believe that it's true, why you believe that you aren't creative. Where did that untruth, because I don't think it's true, where did that untruth get kind of sewn into your mind or into your heart? Did a parent reject your artwork when you were a kid? Did somebody insult something you did? Did an art teacher say, yeah, that's no good, on a piece that you were super proud of? Did you try to go to art school or try to apply to art school and didn't get accepted? What happened that made you think you didn't have a creative bone in your body? Or have you just been praised for your intellect and your logic your whole life? And so you're like, well, that's where I'm hanging my hat. We can all stretch and grow. And so I just want to encourage you to stretch and grow in this area of creativity. And I'd love for you in the comments or send me a private message about some of the lies that you have heard or have believed over the years about creativity, so that we can talk about those and talk through some of the resistance that comes up for people when it comes to engaging in a creative process. You don't have to be Michelangelo to do this. You don't have to be you don't have to create art to sell. Creativity can look very messy and silly and childlike, and that's okay. So let's talk through these things. And I'd just love to see more people engaging in a creative process more frequently. And I'd love to help you do that. All right. Thanks for listening tonight. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this process. Feel free to chat with me anytime about it. Okay. Good night.